Inshallah, in this brief discussion, I'd like to share with you a profound lesson based on a handful of ayat I've selected from Surah Al-Baqarah. And one of those ayat, the center of this discussion, is actually an interrogation. It's an interrogative statement made by Allah to the messenger, to the followers of the messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it goes, "Am turiduna an tas'alu rasulakum kama su'ila Musa min qabl." Do you intend to question your messenger like Musa was questioned before? This is the first part of the ayah. Am turiduna an tas'alu rasulakum kama su'ila Musa min qabl. Do you intend to question your messenger as Musa was questioned before? The latter part of the ayah is, وَمَنْ يَتَبَدَّلِ الْكُفْرَ بِالْإِيمَانِ فَقَدْ ضَلَّ سَوَاءَ السَّبِيلِ. Whoever replaces their faith with disbelief, iman with kufr, then they have gone far off the path. Okay? Now, the first part of the ayah just spoke about one issue, questioning the messenger. It said nothing about leaving Islam. It said nothing about, walking out of the faith and say, I no longer believe in this. All it said was, the criticism was questioning the messenger. The latter part, however, declared that questioning of the messenger as tantamount to what? Disbelief. So it's a pretty strong statement, right? To say that on the one hand, all you did was ask a question. And on the other hand, the Lord is responding, your question is now equal to your iman, your faith being negated altogether, you're considered a disbeliever. It's a pretty strong statement, and one has to understand that properly. And it has very strong and powerful implications for us as Muslims. Forget even others, among ourselves. Now, to understand this context properly, we have to travel to the life of Musa alayhi salam. Because in the ayah, when Allah tells us, are you questioning your messenger? He didn't just say that. He added one thing. He said, do you intend to question your messenger as though Musa was questioned before? And if you study Surah Al-Baqarah, there are multiple instances where Musa is being questioned by his supposed followers. Okay? But I want to walk you through a very simple scenario, not too many elaborate, technical discussions, very simple scenario. You imagine yourself as one of the followers of Musa alayhi salam. You've come to believe that he's a messenger, and you belong to the children of Israel, and he's challenging the Pharaoh, right? He's challenging this power at the time. You mess with him too much, he'll execute everybody. And he's challenging him day in and day out. And there's this debate going back and forth. And tensions are rising. And you're the follower of Musa, and what you see is 9 signs come from, about the history, right? 9 signs that were given to Musa alayhi salam to give Fir'aun an idea of who he's dealing with. He's not just dealing with this man, but this man represents and has been sent on behalf of the Lord of the worlds. Now, let's fast forward, and now the children of Israel are about to escape the clutches of the Pharaoh. They're at the brink of the water. The armies are raging from behind. The cloud of dust is rising. These guys are thinking, we're going to get killed. Musa alayhi salam strikes his staff, water parts, and they cross. Now imagine you were in that gathering. At that point, if you had any doubt about him being a messenger, those doubts would have disappeared. At that point, before then you said, I'm following along, I think he's a messenger, but we'll see. And maybe right before the water parted, there's a person in that audience thinking, man, I got myself killed for nothing. I listened to him, he talked pretty convincingly and I followed him along, but now we're going to get killed. But as soon as that water shifts, you say, you know what, amantu bi Rabbi Musa wa Harun. I believe in the Lord of Musa and Harun, and you follow along, right? Now imagine this person who followed Musa alayhi salam along in this miraculous crossing of the water, they get to the other side and they start questioning Musa's judgment. They start questioning him. When he tells them Allah says something, they say, doesn't make any sense. Are you kidding? Are you joking? Right? Atattakhiduna huzwa, do you take us as a joke? That's what they said. Do you see a rational problem with that? Once you've established that this man doesn't speak on his own behalf, and you've experienced with unequivocal proof that he in fact speaks on the Lord's behalf, then whether what he says makes sense to you or not, the room to question him has disappeared. And if after experiencing that miracle, being convinced beyond the shadow of a doubt that he does in fact speak on behalf of Allah, even then if you question him, isn't that the same as saying you don't really believe he's a messenger? It is. Because the foundation was, I came to conviction, absolute conviction that he is in fact a messenger. The point I'm trying to make is the ayah said, questioning the messenger is the same as disbelieving. It put those two things together. It put them in an equation. Why did it do that? Because the only person who would question a messenger would be one who would say, well, I agree with most of the things he says, but some of these things don't make sense to me. Therefore, they can't be correct. But when you say, I agree with this and I don't agree with this, it's as though you're debating with a human being. Like if you and I are sharing ideas, you can agree with some things I say and you can disagree with some things I say. But if you've acknowledged that this man, yes, he's a human being, but he doesn't speak on his own behalf. The laws he's speaking of, the ethics he's speaking of, the principles he's trying to make you live by, are not something he came up with, but that were given to him, right? Then whether you understand them or not, there's no room for questioning. There's no room for questioning left. And if you still have questions, then the only possibility is you don't really truly believe that he's in fact a messenger. Now that's one side of the scenario. I want to make sure you understand the other side, the other balanced side of the picture, which is this. Is it okay to ask questions about the religion? Absolutely. That's actually encouraged. The companions would continuously ask the messenger questions. So then there's a difference between asking questions of the messenger and questioning the messenger. You understand the difference? When we pose a question in Islam, it can be a question, I don't understand this. Or what is the correct way of doing this, right? Or I'm doing this, is it right or wrong? These are questions, fine. Or how do I do this? That's a question. But asking a question is not the same as questioning. Why does Allah say that? Why is zakah this percent? Why do I have to pray 5 times? Why is it that I can't have relations outside of marriage, etc., etc., etc.? You can't ask those questions because now you're not asking a question, rather you're questioning God Himself. You're questioning the messenger, which basically is the same as questioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we know He doesn't speak on His own behalf. Now, once this is established, and I'll share with you an interesting conversation I had just to give it some a reality, a taste of reality. A few weeks ago, must have been more than a month now, I was in a city where I was invited to speak to some teenagers at a brunch. A couple of girls from the family, Muslim family, and they've been raised, but they didn't really learn Islam formally, right? And what happens is they come in, the father says, these girls have some questions, and I'd like you to try to answer them. So they gave me like a long list of really weird questions. They just came prepared with it, right? So the first girl, she says, well, a couple of my friends are gay. What's so bad about being gay? What if they haven't killed anyone? They haven't stolen any money. They're good people. What's so bad about that? Another question after that, she says, well, why does God want to punish people in hellfire? Why does even hellfire exist, etc., etc.? And the list of questions just went on and on and on and on and on. And you know what? I said to both of them, and this was actually shocking to the father, because he thought they just have questions about Islam or questions about the religion. They didn't have questions about Islam. They were questioning Islam. There's a difference. So when I came to the root of the problem, I asked those girls this question flat out. Do you actually believe this man named Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we say sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but the one who doesn't believe doesn't say it. Do you actually believe that this man received revelation, and whenever he said something is right and wrong, it wasn't his opinion, it was the position of the divine that we have no say in? Do you actually believe he spoke on behalf of God? And both of those teenagers said, actually, we're not so sure. We're not so sure. These are Muslim kids. They've been raised as Muslims, in Muslim family. But you know what? They're in the outside world. They're faced with a lot of questions, ethical questions, that contradict what they learned at Sunday school, or what they learned here and there off chance listening to a khutbah. So they've never been able to reconcile the two things. And when you're not able to reconcile, one of those things gets weaker and the other gets stronger. And because they're not constantly reinforced or taught Islam properly, guess what's going to get stronger? Their doubts are going to get stronger, and their conviction to Islam gets weaker. So none of their questions, I could have given them a proper response. You know why? Because there's only one question you have to ask them. Do you really believe he's a messenger? If you answer that question, and if you're convinced of that answer, then all of these questions automatically disappear. They disappear. And to conclude this issue, what I want to share with you is an ayah from the Qur'an which is really profound on this subject. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He reveals laws, and sometimes He gives us a rationale for those laws. Sometimes. For instance, with alcohol, one of the early revelations is وَإِثْمُهُمَا أَكْبَرُ مِنْ نَفْعِهِمَا. Their harm is greater than their benefit. For alcohol and gambling, there's more harm than there is benefit. Before they were absolutely forbidden, it was hinted that they're bad ideas. Though you might get some money out of it sometimes, or there may be some benefit that comes out of it, in the end the harm far outweighs the benefit. That's a hint. Now Allah doesn't have to even tell us that. He could just say, don't drink and don't gamble. That's it, end of story. He doesn't have to explain to you and me, well, you don't drink because it has this side effect. Okay? Or because it does this, and this to your liver. Or you might drink and drive and get killed, etc., etc. He doesn't have to give any of these reasons. And even if someone says, well, alcohol is haram, alcohol is forbidden in Islam because of spousal abuse and because of violence and because of incidents at clubs and things like that. Look at all the harm alcohol produces. That's why it's forbidden. That's actually an incorrect position. The correct position is, why is it forbidden? He said so. That's the correct position. Now, why did he say so? Maybe we'll learn something about why he did it. Maybe we'll learn some benefits of the law, but in the end, we're never really going to know truly why is it that this law is in place. We may know some things about it, some benefits of it we can see, but the whole picture we can't see. This is why Allah says, عَسَىٰ أَن تُحِبُّوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ شَرٌ لَكُمْ. It's very possible that you really like something, and it's harmful for you. And it's very وَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. And it's very possible that you detest something, you find it disgusting, you find it unacceptable, but it's better for you. وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And it is Allah who knows, and you have no idea. You don't know. You're not the ones who know. So the concluding ayah that I wanted to share with you, just to bring this point home. Allah puts a scenario in front of us which is really remarkable. This is the 66th ayah of Surah Nisa. Allah says, وَلَوْ أَنَّا كَتَبْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ أَنِ اقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ أَوْ يَخْرُجُوا مِنْ دِيَارِهِمْ. If we had ordained upon people, if divine law was revealed, that people should commit suicide, kill themselves. People should kill themselves. Or that they should leave their homes. They should expel themselves from their homes, become homeless despite owning or having a home. Now let's think about this. The half of the ayah again says, if it was the case that the Lord said, kill yourself. And if it was the case that the Lord said, leave your home. Allah said, leave your home despite owning a home. Don't go back to your home again. Allah says, even if He said something that irrational, because both of those things are clearly irrational, right? That don't make any sense to us. But Allah is not saying if it makes sense or not. Allah is making one point. If He said it, لَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُمْ. No doubt it would have been better for them. It would have been better for them. For what reason? Because it makes sense? No. For the simple reason that it is He who said it. That's the heart of the matter that's being driven home.